systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We are back. It is Friday. Ham had his flu game last time on a Tuesday. Hey, up there in New York City, man, got sick in New York City. Had to do a show with my guy Hebrewcheetah, but we're back in the homestead in Tennessee. Feeling good for the 7-game DraftKings slate. Looking forward to breaking it all down with you. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe. Hebrewcheetah, how was your week? What's going on? Talk to the people.
Yeah, week's been good. Busy week for me, filling in for BJ earlier this week. So last time you guys were about to see me for the week. But yeah, it's been very busy over here. And then tomorrow we got the fights. I don't know if you're too in tune with the UFC stuff, but obviously had a really big cancellation with the main card or the main event getting switched around a little bit. So we're losing a fight, which always sucks. Seems like every time me and Title go to these fights, one of these fighters gets sick or injured or something before the fight. So, gonna be moving things around there, but we'll still have a good time. Gonna be a lot of fun. And, yeah, looking forward to this slate. Got the $8 150 max. I'll be in there tonight. Hopefully take down a live final seat as well. And then hopefully my golfers start doing better. I got a couple golf lineups in there and some of the bigger dollar tournaments. So hopefully those guys can get it going.
Yeah, listen to the emergency stream Wednesday night. Our guy DJ was just crushing it. Moved what was neckbeard Patrick Cantley all the way up to the second highest owned golfer. But that was a great show. And where are those fights? Those fights in LA, or where are the fights?
Yep, yeah, they're just over here. Probably like a 20-25 minute drive from me. At the new Intuit Dome, so I'm pretty close. It's over there in Inglewood, so it's really close. Zach Titletown is on his way down here right now from Arizona, so not sure if he's tuning into the show. If he is, what's up? If not, I'll see him in probably 4 or 5 hours.
Nice. Well, Inglewood always up to no good in the new Intuit Dome. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Give a special shout out to our number one fan, Miss Jasmine. How you doing? Hopefully you're having a great day today. Appreciate you tuning in. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Big, and it is Free Money Friday. You're in the right place to make that money. We're going to dive right into it. We're going to go over here to ShipItNation.com. Everything that you want from the NBA perspective. We got projections. We got showdown content. We got the Stone, which we're going to go into, a GPP core report that we give out 7 days a week. Same as a cash core report with our guy, Title Crown. Slate info, and then the best slate plan in the business breaks down all the key players in that night's game. Let's head on over to the Stone. Break down this first game. We got the Magic, the depleted Magic. No Jalen Suggs. Headed into the Celtics. Celtics, I think they're healthy tonight. Hebrewcheetah, I think they are 100%. At least the big boys anyway will be playing tonight. This should be a mismatch. But, you talk every game. I feel like how well coached this Magic team is, how they just grind. They keep things close. But they're not slated to score 100 points tonight. Can they keep it close with Boston? You got any interest in this game? Orlando at Boston.
Yeah, obviously the Magic, very well coached, obviously been dealing with injuries up and down the lineup, and that's kind of the theme here. Obviously Goga is going to miss again, still have Franz and Mo Wagner out. Mo is obviously done for the season, but Paulo getting a little bit healthier. This will be his 4th game since returning from the oblique injury, so there's a chance we see his minutes get into the lower 30s. Lost a lot of time last game against Milwaukee where they just got blown out in a pretty big way. Yeah, I think Magic might be hitting a little bit of a wall here. It's a really big not having guys like Goga in the starting lineup because he's one of the best rim protectors in the league. Wendell Carter Jr., not great, and then Jonathan Isaac just not his body just doesn't allow him to play more than like 23, 24 minutes. So it's really tough for them. They're pretty thin in the front court. I mean, we saw last game, even in the blowout, there was like 6 or 7 minutes left in the game, and they pulled all the starters, but Wendell Carter Jr. was still out there. Because they just don't have any centers behind him. With Jonathan Isaac, they just can't play him deep into blowouts, and they're missing a couple other key rotation guys as well. I have to check the injury report, but yeah, they're definitely thin here. I kind of am expecting to get blown out here again, but there's a chance they keep it close if Paulo, if he steps up in a big way and if he's able to play into the lower 30s. I think there's a chance they can keep it close, but mainly because Boston's really been struggling as of late. Their defense has not been that good, but their offense is terrible. Derek White is not shooting the ball well. Tatum and Jaylen Brown are both not playing great either. So yeah, it's been a tough stretch of games for Boston coming off a loss against the Toronto Raptors. I don't really have a lot of interest in this game. Kind of been talking for a long time about it, but I don't really have a ton of interest. I think on Orlando's side, if you're playing Paulo, you probably want to play some of those guys up top, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, or Tatum, alongside of him, and just hope that the game stays close. That's probably how I would be looking to play Paulo. I don't think this is a great spot for Cole Anthony. Should continue to start, but there's always a chance that he gets benched. I think he kind of like hit his peak over the last couple stretch of games where he was playing 34, 35 minutes and playing pretty well, but in a lot softer matchups. This isn't bad against a Celtics team that does allow a good amount of pick and roll stuff, but I just think for like the matchup, it makes a little bit more sense for him to lose minutes to a guy like Anthony Black. Not saying that Black isn't played tonight. I just think that the Orlando side, you're probably limiting it to one player on your lineup, and that'll probably be Wendell Carter Jr. for the reasons I mentioned. Gonna play in a blowout because they just don't have any centers, and he's gonna likely start. Matchup is not great for rim scorers, but he can stretch the court a little bit, so he's got some fantasy appeal at 4.3K, pretty cheap tag for him as a starter. And the Boston side don't really have much interest at all. I guess Porzingis is probably my favorite play just because he's a solid per minute guy. Usage has been really good over the last few games. Only 7K. Matchup is really not all that bad against Wendell Carter Jr., so I don't mind him, but probably going to be limiting my lineups to max 1 on both sides, maybe even just max 1 in this entire game.
Yeah, going back to Wendell Carter real quick. Did you like Wendell Carter? I kind of do at 4,300, just like you said. There's nobody behind him, but what did you say on him? Are you in or out on him?
Yeah, I like him. I think that there's probably some better center options I like more, mainly in that Jazz game, and then even for a little bit more expensive guys like Gobert, Gafford, and Brook Lopez seem a little bit better. But yeah, I'd be okay with Wendell Carter Jr. I don't think that he's like this isn't like a Gafford situation from a few nights ago, where the matchup was really good and we knew he was going to play all those center minutes. This is a bad matchup, and a team total is super low. So I don't think that I don't think you're going to get buried by not playing him, but he's pretty viable I think he's a good cash game play and probably fine in tournaments.
Yeah. I mean, he's coming in at 20%. I mean, obviously he will be popular. And then what about Drew Holiday at this price? Coach Chris wants to know.
I don't think this is a spot where they extend his minutes too much. Like him in games where there's like an elite guard on the other side. Orlando doesn't really have that, so I don't think that this is a great spot for Drew. I think Pritchard is kind of interesting just in the blowout scenario, but yeah, I mean the price tag on Drew is dirt cheap. Point guard, shooting guard eligible is pretty good, but not somebody I'm really looking to for tournaments. I think we're going to need some pretty big scores. There's some really solid game environments on the slate, so I don't really want to bury my lineup in the first game of the night.
Yeah, absolutely understood. And Wardo, you're not late. You're right on time because we are going to talk about Julius Randle's return to MSG to take on these New York Knickerbockers. Hey, should be a good one. No Dante DiVincenzo. I was talking a little bit about pre-show before that. I hated that he missed that. Obviously, we saw that preseason game where he was chirping Tibbs, so hate it that he's gone, but you did get Julius Randle coming back. I'll call it home, I guess, coming back to Madison Square Garden. You get Karl Anthony Towns versus his old team. Should be a pretty good game. I think I cored Mikal Bridges the other night, and he went 0 for 12 from 3. So there's that. I'm going to blame that on Wardo. But talk to me about this game. It's a little bit closer spread. Knicks been struggling, I guess, Rio, a little bit lately. Lost to the Pistons the other night. Struggled with a few other teams as well. But talk to me a little bit about this game. Timberwolves at the Knicks.
Yeah, they were really good last time out. Let Philly hang around a little bit too long, in my opinion, with Philly being without Joel Embiid and some other guys. But yeah, I mean, they're playing pretty decent basketball right now. They've been struggling. Both these teams are kind of struggling a little bit in terms of their season-long average for their defensive rating. Minnesota 15th right now. Rim defense is still really good, but they're kind of getting beat on the perimeter with their three-point defense not being that great. And the Knicks are 20th overall in defensive rating this month, so they're struggling a little bit more. Their rim defense has been a lot worse, not having Cat being in and out of the lineup, and then their three-point defense has been awful. They're also dead last in pick and roll defense this season, which is kind of like interesting when you think about the defenders that they have with Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. But yeah, they've really been struggling there. The two injuries in this game that are huge, I would say, for the slate, Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, it's not like you're not replacing a super high usage guy, but Dante's been playing a ton of minutes in the starting lineup. So how do they go about with the starting lineup? I think that it's for sure going to be one of Mike Conley or Nickeil Alexander-Walker for sure. I think those two are the most likely candidates to take a bulk of those starting point guard minutes. I think the matchup's a little bit kind of calls for what NAW does a little bit more, that needs some more on-ball defense with Brunson on the other side. So I kind of like him a little bit more. But if Conley's starting, then probably a clear indication that they're going to play him like 25, 26 minutes. And at 3.5K, that's just simply way too cheap for him. But the Cat injury on the other side is a big one. He's truly questionable. Like, this is a legit injury. He has a sprained thumb and I believe it's like they call it a bone chip in his hand. So definitely not something that they want to push if they don't have to. If he were to miss, then that'd be another reason why I don't really want to get super deep into the Orlando-Boston game, because that would open up value in Precious Achiuwa. Probably not playing Jericho Sims just because he's a terrible permanent producer, but Precious would be decent with the power forward eligibility. And then obviously Brunson, Hart, Bridges, OG would look a lot better as well. Brunson would definitely be taking on a huge workload offensively, with Josh Hart seeing an uptick in rebounding and assist rate. So those would be the two guys I would look to. But Bridges and OG are really cheap, and it's not a terrible matchup for what they do well. I guess more so what Bridges does well. He's starting to shoot the ball a lot better as of late. 6 of 8 from 3 against Detroit, 5 of 10 against Philly. So good matchup for a 3-point shooter. So I wouldn't mind Mikal Bridges. If Cat were to be out, you're probably fine playing him even if Cat is in as well, because we're probably getting 40-plus minutes from Mikal Bridges at 5.9K, which is not something you ever want to overlook. OG is a little bit tougher to get to, just because there's all the talk about like the egos in the locker room. Everybody thinks that he's talking. Josh Hart was talking about OG Anunoby, and it's you kind of see it with just his body language on the court. So, yeah, I just don't. I'd rather just get to Bridges if I'm playing one of those secondary pieces, not named Josh Hart. And then if Cat plays, I think he's a really solid option. 9.9K, pretty low ownership. He killed Gobert the last time they faced off, went for 72 DK points in his return to Minnesota. Just matches up really well against a guy like Gobert, who's more of a rim protector. He can take Gobert off the dribble, stretch the court, can do a lot of things that Gobert struggles with defensively. So I think that Cat would be a very, very strong expensive option at 9.9K. And then back to the Minnesota side, Ant Edwards looks really good, 9.1K. He's had a massive role as pretty much the point guard for the Timberwolves, with Conley coming off the bench. That's why I think that they could go Alexander Walker, because they like Ant running that first unit and then Conley running the second unit. Adding those guys into the same lineup together, it just kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense. I think if they do that, then there's probably a better chance of a guy like Rob Dillingham getting into the rotation, just because they need some secondary ball handling in the second unit. I don't think they're going to want to have Alexander Walker taking up too much of that. So if Conley is coming off the bench again, I think that's sneakily good for Anthony Edwards, just, towards the top of the league, and all the tracking stuff, like the assist rates are really good. The touch time drives are really good. Usage has been really good. So Ant would be the guy I'd look to. Really good matchup as well. Pick and roll stuff I mentioned for Knicks. They're dead last there. And Ant is averaging just over 8 points a game, I believe, in pick and roll situations. So he looks like a very strong option. Don't really like the spot for Randall. Maybe there's a little bit of revenge in his heart. 7.1K is a pretty good tag, but I prefer the upside of Ant Edwards. And then Gobert is just too cheap now, 5.4K. Matchup probably gets better for him if Cat were to be out, because going up against guys like Sims who can't stretch the floor would be a lot better for Gobert. But at the same time, if Precious Achiuwa is starting, I think that is kind of sneakily worse for Gobert and could lead to more small ball lineups in the front court with Randall and Naz Reid. I think Naz Reid is really good regardless at 4.9K, really low ownership. I just think this is a spot where if Cat is out, then you don't really need to worry about those front court guys beating you. I think that could lead to a little bit more Naz Reid minutes. He's also been eating into Randall a lot. Randall's failed to close in a handful, like the last 3 or 4 games. So you could be aggressive and play max one Naz and Randall. I don't think that would be terrible. I definitely would prefer Naz there.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. The Wardo talking about Cat and Naz. I know they played earlier in Minnesota. I think Randall had like 16 in the first quarter, and the Timberwolves, were balling. They ended up getting beat by like 30. I think so. I think Randall has some juice tonight. when he comes back out. So yeah, looking forward to watching this game. One question I had for you: would you max one Conley and NAW?
I don't think so. I think in single entry you probably could. I'm gonna be 150 maxing, so I don't think I'm gonna set that rule. I'd be okay with them together. Yeah, I don't think that I would be setting that rule because Alexander Walker can he can play three different positions essentially with all the way from 1 to 3. So I think that there's a good chance that both those guys overlap, and we're talking about a combined price tag of 6.8K. So I don't think that I'm setting that rule.
Okay, good deal. And Beach Bum has set the record for hitting the all-time likes. We appreciate that. We want someone to break his record. One of you 200 in here watching, break Beach Bum's record. Hit that like button. We certainly appreciate it each and every time you come on this show. We certainly appreciate it. We're going to move on to the next game. Pretty interesting news. We have the Joker currently listed as in, but he is questionable. So obviously make sure you're monitoring that. One other thing. You're the triple-double whisperer. Josh Hart, triple-double, yes or no?
Not if Cat is in, no.
Not if Cat is in. If he's out, Rio guarantees a triple-double from Josh Hart. You heard it here first. Moving on to the next game. Nuggets headed into South Beach. Joker was out partying all night. Jamal Murray coming off his 45-point game. Should be a good one. Nuggets at the Heat. Let's talk about it. If Joker is in, then we can talk about it if he were to miss tonight.
Yeah, I think if Joker's in, he's a really good play. I haven't really cared too much about Bam Adebayo's defense this season. He's actually been quite bad, and you're starting to see Khalil Ware kind of eat into his minutes a little bit with Ware doing really well. And if the Heat have been running a ton of zone defense as of late. I've been watching them a lot because they've been on a huge West Coast road trip, and I just don't think you can really do that against a guy like Jokic. The way to beat the zone obviously is a lot of passing and off-ball shooting. You bring the center up to like the free throw line and kind of have him, passing out to the guys that are open on the wings. And there's really nobody better than Jokic at that in terms of big men passing. So I think that if they're running that zone a lot, Jokic is going to kill this team. Going to get a bunch of open mid-range jumpers, a lot of off-ball shooting to guys like Michael Porter Jr., Christian Braun, Jamal Murray. So I think that if he's in, really strong play, probably slightly underpriced. I wouldn't imagine there's any sort of minutes limit with it being an elbow injury and not anything like a knee or ankle injury. So he'd probably be playing 38 to 40 minutes tonight in a game that they're projected to lose. So yeah, I think Jokic would be a totally fine option if he's in. Probably when he gets a Russ, or I think the only people I really have interest in on Denver if Jokic were to be in is Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. Just think there's a little bit of upside for guys that are going to be playing off ball with that Miami zone defense. I think that both those guys are decent. Look at some Michael Porter Jr. over threes maybe. But then if Jokic is out, it's going to be DeAndre Jordan starting for him. Another reason why I don't really want to get too deep into Orlando Boston, because that could open up a lot of value at 3.6K. And then all those guys from Russ, Jamal Murray, MPJ, probably not Aaron Gordon, but Christian Braun and Peyton Watson would all look a lot better as well. I would probably think Jamal Murray is going to get a lot of ownership in that case, and I think that'd be okay. I think that the matchup is pretty good for the things that he does well. So if Jokic is out, Jamal Murray, DeAndre Jordan, the guys I'm looking to. If he's in, Jokic is really good. Jamal and MPJ are just okay. The Miami side, they're getting Jimmy Butler back, so they're going to take away a lot of that usage from Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo. I mean, there's just like a lot of all the narratives going around, a lot of moving parts. Like, I don't know how it's going to look with Jimmy returning from the suspension. Him and Pat Riley are, the butting heads a lot right now. There could be a change in the starting lineup. I don't think Jimmy's going to come off the bench, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they do have him off the bench, and maybe he's just not playing. But I would assume he's in. Hero, Bam, Butler, and Highsmith, the 4 starters, and then they got to fill out that last spot. Probably going to be Terry Rozier. Yeah, I'm probably not going to get to any Miami pieces. I think that if you're playing one, it's probably Tyler Hero. He's been shooting the ball really well. He's expensive. Jimmy coming back definitely takes away a lot of upside from him, but he's shooting the ball really well right now. And Denver's kind of struggling against catch and shoot guys. So I think that Hero would be the best option.
Yeah, it takes you back to my happy place, Rio, where Dame time. It was Dame time in Miami when he hit those 8 threes. So I certainly appreciate that. I missed a question earlier. Going back to that Knicks game, then we'll definitely get away from that. But how many max for New York would you have on a team? I think I asked that correctly.
Yeah. I would say 2 probably, assuming Cat is in. If he's out, you could definitely get to like 3 or 4, I would say, with that, being one of Brunson, 2 of those wing guys and then one like maybe Precious, something like that. But yeah, I would say right now, assuming Cat is in, probably just two.
Just two. Moving on to the next game, we have the looks like the Raptors and the Bucks taking on the Bucks, as you alluded to earlier. Toronto coming off a pretty big win the other night, beating the defending champion Boston Celtics. Now take on Milwaukee. They will be without Emmanuel Quickly tonight. He's the biggest superstar for them that I see out. Then Giannis is going to be available. No major news, in my opinion. You got Chris Middleton going to play. Andre Jackson is going to miss. I think he left in the middle of that game the last time out. And AJ Green came in at halftime. But talk to me about this game. Raptors catching 11.5, which is a lot. We know we've picked on them all season long with bigs. Are you going to Giannis tonight? They're 11.5-point favorites. Talk to me about this game. Raptors at the Bucks.
Yeah, I mean, outside of beating Boston, they also beat Golden State. So that's a pretty big win against two solid teams in each division. I don't want to say that the Raptors are back and like they're a good team now. It was really just, I think, more so a product of both those teams really struggling offensively this month. I mean, Boston's been really bad as of late, and then the Warriors had huge issues. They had a big win against Minnesota the other night, but they did win that game, I think, right?
Yeah, they did.
Okay. Yeah, so both those teams are just kind of playing bad offense right now. It's not like the Raptors are playing good defense. They're still one of the worst rim defense in the league. Milwaukee's going to attack the rim, obviously, with Giannis putting his head down and getting to the basket with ease here. Milwaukee is a team you want to attack with shooters. Their rim defense being elite with Giannis and Brook Lopez down low kind of tends to leave the off-ball guys open a little bit more. Pick-and-roll defense has not been good for Milwaukee either, and it's going to get a lot worse with no Andre Jackson Jr. But like I mentioned on Wednesday, AJ Green, surprisingly pretty solid defender, and I would expect him to enter the starting lineup. In terms of the plays in this game, the Toronto side, with no Emmanuel Quickly, we've seen Scotty Barnes take on a really big ball handling role, leading the team in touch time and potential assists over the last two games. I think it's an extremely tough matchup for him. Just how he scores is a lot around the basket. It's going to be really tough for him to get going there, but he does add enough of the peripherals to kind of trump all that stuff and kind of like negate the offense. So I think that he's pretty solid at 8.7K. That's a good price tag for him. Playing a lot of minutes right now, 36 plus minutes in 5 straight games. So I don't mind him too much, but I am a little bit worried about the matchup. I think the matchup is a little bit better for RJ Barrett, playing more off ball. Bucks are a lot worse against 3-point shooters. He's leading the team in usage over the last 2 games with Quickly out, and went for 46.25 DK points in just 32 minutes the last time these teams faced off. So I think that he's a pretty strong option. I think the matchup is awful for Pirtle, so I'm not going to get to him. Grady Dick is kind of interesting, like I mentioned, for off-ball guys, 3-point shooters. He shot 9 3-point attempts in that last game. So he's got a little bit of upside at 4.2K. And then Chris Boucher just kind of, I think he's a fine last man in. He's been playing really good over the last week or so. So yeah, I think that he's an okay option. On the Milwaukee side, Giannis, really good play. A little bit worried, though, just about the upside. It seems like Toronto kind of has his number in terms of not allowing him to score a bunch of points. They pretty much just blitz him and kind of do what some teams do in the playoffs, just build a wall in front of Giannis. And that's kind of shown. He's only averaging 45.5 DK points in 2 games against Toronto this season. Did put up a triple-double the last time they faced off in just 29 minutes, but lost a full rotation due to blowout, which is a possibility tonight as well. He's coming in as the highest owned stud on the slate. So you could, like, this is pretty much the deciding point on the slate. Do you want to play him or not? I think that if I'm playing him, I'm not recommending people to set this rule, but I think that the way that I personally want to play is if I'm playing Giannis, I might want to correlate him with one of Scotty Barnes or RJ Barrett. Just because I've seen enough from Toronto defensively that they can kind of, like, even in a blowout, Giannis doesn't get there in a huge way. So I think that in maybe a high scoring back and forth affair, Giannis looks like there's a little bit more upside there. But I'm going to play around with the builds and see how it looks. I'm not in love with Scotty Barnes or RJ Barrett as options tonight, but I do think that is an interesting pairing. And then Damian Lillard, matchup is a little bit tougher with Davion Mitchell, kind of solidified as the point guard. He's a really solid on-ball defender, point of attack guy. So I think the matchup is a little bit worse for Dame, coming in with a little bit of ownership, which I don't love. I think there's some really solid options at point guard in that mid-tier, like mid 8K range. So I don't think I want to get too much of him. And then although Bobby Portis, Chris Middleton, and Brook Lopez are interesting tonight, I think that Brook Lopez is my favorite. The price has come way down, and he's still playing 30-plus minutes. This is a guy that's in like normally the upper 5K to low 6K range. One of the matchups you love to attack for opposing centers. He doesn't really score around the basket much, but the Raptors do allow the 4th most blocks per game to opposing big men. So there's some good upside for him there. And he went put up 34.75 DK points in the last matchup, played 30 minutes in that one. So he looks pretty solid. Same thing for Portis. He's got a ton of upside here in this matchup, coming in with more ownership just due to the fact that he's got the power forward eligibility. I prefer Brook Lopez just because I think the ownership is going to be lower and there's a little bit more upside there. But I don't think that Bobby Portis is a bad play by any means. Middleton is probably the guy I like the least because they're just really cautious with his minutes right now, coming off of those ankle injuries. And then I guess you could talk me into some Gary Trent or AJ Green. Probably prefer Green, especially if he's starting, but not really the game I'm looking to for value per se.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. Giannis, 46 points with a triple-double last time out versus this team, which was probably about as low as you can get. And he got 40, I think you said it, 44 the last time out as well. Let's move on to the next one. This one's going to be an interesting game. I think it's going to be higher scoring than this, but we have the Jazz headed to the Pelicans. You always talk about how bad your Utah Jazz are at defending the three. So CJ, Trey Murphy should be chucking. Tons of injuries in this one. No Brandon Ingram, no Herb Jones, no Yves Missi. I said DeJounte is going to be playing, but for the Utah Jazz, they have a full starting 5 almost that could be that's sitting. Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, Taylor Hendricks, Johnny Juzang, Walker Kessler, Laurie's still missing, Micah Potter, named more I feel like that are missing that are going to play, but you got to, like you said earlier, like some of these Jazz centers, you got Flip, you got Drew Eubanks, but talk to me about this game, Jazz at the Pelicans.
Yeah, I mean, I love this game. Really love to attack the Jazz anytime I get the chance to. But the other side of the game is interesting too, with the Pelicans not being that great defensively. They have been getting a little bit better, getting Giannis or Zion back, but they will be without Missy tonight, which could make their rim defense a little bit worse. But yeah, I mean, this is just a really, really solid spot to attack on both sides. Jazz are the worst transition team in the league, allowing a ton of catch-and-shoot points, as well as the rim defense being awful over this month. Pelicans should be able to put up a ton of points here. New Orleans on the other side is kind of similar defensively. They've been a little bit better with their three-point defense, but still a huge rim funnel. I think they're second worst in the league in rim defense. And from a point per possession perspective, they're dead last in transition defense. And from a points per game, probably in like the 6-7-ish range. So a pretty good spot for both teams stylistically. I'll start with the Jazz side. So we should expect a starting lineup with Colin Sexton returning, Keontae George, Sexton, Filipkowski, Drew Eubanks, and Cody Williams at the 3. Yeah, I think that the spot first of all, Colin Sexton is way too expensive at 7.5K, so I think you can just X him out. Probably X out Spee, X out EJ Harkless and Patty Mills, but I do have interest in Keontae a little bit. I think that the range for Keontae is pretty wide. We saw him put up a huge game last time out, and with Collier shifting to a bench role, should put the ball in Keontae's hands more. Keontae lost a lot of touches to Collier last game. They don't really correlate that well just because they both need the ball in their hands to produce, with Collier being more of like a true point guard, and then the Jazz are trying to groom Keontae into becoming a true point guard. But this is only his second year doing that, so I think taking Collier out of the lineup is kind of big for the outlook on Keontae from a ball handling perspective. But he will see DeJounte Murray, which I don't think DeJounte is a great defender by any means, but just a style of defender that he is, he's very lengthy, which could give Keontae some issues. So I think I'm a little bit under on Keontae, but I'm probably going to get to a little bit of him in some correlated game stacks. I do think that he's got good upside. Collier is probably out of play now. If you want to keep him in, I would definitely be max 1 of Collier and Sexton. Probably max 1 Keontae and Collier too, so max 1 of those guards. Bryce Sensabaugh has been amazing coming off the bench as of late. 16 or more real points in 4 straight games, kind of taking over that Jordan Clarkson role. So I think that he's a very, very solid option, 4.8K. Definitely going to get a lot of him. Filipkowski and Drew Eubanks, I think, are both good for different reasons. Filipkowski is able to stretch the floor, which is good against this Pelican team. And then he might be defending Zion tonight, which could be a little bit of a issue for him getting into foul risk. But Flip has been a very good point per minute producer when he's given the chance to just get a lot of run, and they're really thin in the front court, especially at the power forward position. They don't really have any true fours behind Filipkowski with Micah Potter out tonight. So I think that the upside is pretty solid for Flip, and if he gets up to 30 minutes, he could really hit in a huge way and not coming with a ton of ownership. I really like Eubanks tonight, assuming that he's starting and at 4.1K, really good value. Probably prefer him to Wendell Carter Jr. The Pelicans just getting killed right now by opposing big men, so he should be able to get some easy looks around the basket going up against Daniel Tice on the other side. And then Oscar Tshiebwe, I think, is an interesting pivot off of Drew Eubanks or Filipkowski if you think that one of those guys gets into foul trouble. He's been priced, and I think that he's a pretty solid per minute guy as well. So I would look to get to some of him away from Eubanks probably. On the Pelican side, a lot of interest in all these guys up top. Just with the prices, though, you're probably going to want to be max 2 of these guys. I will rank it as DeJounte 1, Zion 2, but it's really close between him and Trey Murphy, and then CJ kind of a distant 4th. The reason I really like Zion tonight is just the Jazz defense has been awful. Their transition defense is really bad, and that's kind of where you want to see Zion get going. He's a great transition scorer, obviously, in the open court. Nobody can stop him, and he's going to have a huge size advantage over Cody Williams, assuming that he's the guy on him. If that's how they start with Cody on Zion, he's going to be able to put up a ton of points here. Should be well rested, not playing in the back-to-back. I think there's a chance we see those minutes get extended a little bit here. In a matchup they should easily win. Probably want to get him going a little bit more, get him some more minutes tonight. So I like Zion, especially with Missy out. There's even some chance that he gets some of those small ball center minutes, which could really give him a solid floor with the rebounding upside if that's the case. DeJounte Murray, we've loved to attack the Jazz with guards all season long. He's starting to find a rhythm as well offensively. Jazz with bottom 3 in DVP against point guards this season. He's shooting the ball a lot more efficiently off of drives, which is good against a team like the Jazz who are not defending the rim as well. But another area that I think that DeJounte could put up a big score, the Jazz are dead last in turnover percentage this season, which could lead to a massive stat line for DeJounte. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a 25-8-8 game and then like 4 or 5 steals, and he could probably hit 55-60 if that's the case. I think that he's a very solid option, 8.2K. Definitely prefer him to Lillard for a little bit cheaper. And then Murphy and CJ, I think these guys you could play a little bit more aggressive and just be max one of them too, because I think that just what they do well is kind of the same thing. So I don't see a scenario with a fully healthy, not fully healthy, but with Zion and DeJounte in there, it's kind of hard for both of them to get there. But Murphy is definitely the guy that you want. He's been flame throwing as of late, 22 or more real points in 4 straight games, coming off of 52 and 54 DK point games in the last 2. Driving the ball a lot more as of late. Hasn't really been hitting his threes, but if those threes kind of regress in a positive way here, he could be in for a huge game. I mean, we're talking like against the Bulls, I believe he went 2 for 13 from deep and still had 54 DK points. So even if he makes a couple more there, we're talking about 60 plus. So he's got a ton of upside, and ownership should remain in check just because he's so expensive now. But I'm okay with it. I think that he's a really, really strong option. And then Daniel Tice, if he's starting, looks really good, 3.1K. I think you can definitely attack Drew Eubanks in the starting lineup. But an area where I think that Tice is valuable tonight, I talked about a lot earlier in the season when Zion and Missy were playing alongside of each other. Missy is like your prototypical big. He doesn't have the ability to stretch the court, so it's hard to play Zion and Missy for a lot of minutes together. Daniel Tice is a decent three-point shooter, so they're probably able to play Zion and Tice for good minutes alongside of each other because you don't need to. The court gets a lot smaller having Missy and Zion out there together, where Tice can stretch the court and give Zion a lot of open lanes to get to the basket. So I think that Tice makes a lot of sense, and I don't think you need to pair him away from Zion. I think that they correlate pretty positively, actually. And then Jose Alvarado, I think I have to mention, because he's 3.3K. Turnover-prone team like the Jazz could lead to like a random 4 or 5 steal game from him. I would not be surprised at the end of the night if he had like 25 DK points in like 15 minutes.
Yeah, excellent breakdown there. Trey Murphy, I think I know the answer. Trey Murphy versus CJ McCullum, 3-pointers. Who has more tonight?
I would think CJ, actually, just because he's a more efficient 3-point shooter. I think Murphy has more real points in this game just because he's doing more than shoot, but I do think that CJ is the better 3-point shooter right now. So I would say CJ has more threes tonight.
And you might have touched on it. I haven't seen anything, but Has the coach come out and said Zion's going to get up into the low 30s in minutes, or you just think he might just because they want to ramp him up a little bit?
No, they haven't said anything like that. It's just kind of, I just think that this is time. He's played a good amount of games. Like when he returned in. So I guess this will be his fourth game back. His first game back against Minnesota played 28, only played 24 last time against Chicago. So I think that this 28 is probably the more likely outcome, but there's a chance that he gets to 30 tonight just with losing a body like Missy at the center position could lead to more minutes from him because I don't think they view Robinson Earl as a center. They haven't really shown a willingness to play Metkovic, who, if you don't know who that is, he's a G League beast, but hasn't really done much this season. So I think that I just want to play into the upside of Zion possibly getting 30 minutes because at low ownership, he's got like 60-point upside in this game.
I've never heard of Mitkovic. I never heard of that Vit guy for the Hawks the other night, and all he did was go and put up 45 when you talked about him. So I'm going to take your word for it that he's a baller. And if anybody out there in the chat knows what happens with Kyle Filipowski and his girlfriend, please update me in the chat. I've been wondering that for the last couple months. Haven't heard a word about that. But his old lady and him, if you have an update, give me that in the chat, please. This next game, I've been waiting to talk about it all day long. We got the LeVar Ball special. We got Jello bumping those tracks, making more money than anybody knows what to do with. We got LaMelo. We got Lonzo. We got all the balls going to be in Chicago tonight. Hopefully we don't get this one snowed out. We're also going to have a bunch of points and not much defense. So who's going to win this game? Little brother, big brother, Hornets, Bulls. Talk to me about this one. This one should be a popular one.
Hey, LeVar Ball is 3 for 3 in terms of Suns. I mean, they're all just successful in their own way, I guess.
Balling out of control. And those shoes, man, I want some of those shoes. Did you ever get any big baller brand shoes, man? Those are things I bet you those things were great. No. I didn't get my hands on any. I'm
not trying to tear my Achilles or roll up an ankle.
All the balls. Give me all the balls.
All the balls in Chicago. There's a lot of people think that Lonzo's career kind of got sidetracked because of the shoe, because he was wearing those when he came into the league and then had all those knee injuries. And he was basically saying, like, this is the cheapest shoe I've ever worn. Kind of throwing his dad on the bus a little bit, but his dad had a vision, just didn't turn out. Yeah, but in terms of this game,
Michael Jordan, he said.
Yeah, he could beat him one-on-one, apparently. Undefeated. Yeah, but in terms of this game, though, it should definitely be a good one for fantasy purposes. The Bulls continue to bring the pace, but the Hornets have actually picked things up a bit as of late, ranking 10th in pace this month. So a very friendly game environment to attack here. Bulls continue to be a huge rim funnel, but their pick-and-roll defense is very bad as well, ranking towards the bottom of the league there. Hornets have been really good with their rim protection with Mark Williams really picking things up there. But giving up a little bit more threes as of late, and the Bulls are one of the teams that will take the most threes per game. I think they're right up there with the Celtics. So yeah, really good game environment to attack. This is a huge LaMelo Ball spot, probably one of my favorite spends in the entire slate, 10.4K. Not expensive enough for him. Bulls, like I said, bottom 4 pick-and-roll defense. LaMelo leads the league in pick-and-roll scoring this season, so should have no issue scoring the ball here. And Ayo getting a little bit healthier. They're probably going to throw Alonzo on him a little bit to make things a little bit tougher for him. But he's just taking so many shots right now. I think he's taking over 14 threes a game. So he's got as much scoring upside as anybody on the entire slate. I think this is a really good spot for LaMelo to get it going here. So I think that he's awesome. Brandon Miller is questionable, so that is something to keep an eye on. That would lead to a little bit more usage for LaMelo and Miles Bridges. And then somebody would have to start for him. I don't really know who it would be. Probably I don't know if Josh Green is starting right now, but it'd be one of Green or Cody Martin. Don't really think those guys are much in play. You probably just get into the guys up top, but definitely something to monitor there. But yeah, I like the spot for Miles Bridges as well, playing a ton of minutes again as of late. He might get a little bit overlooked, but this is a really good spot for him. Patrick Williams has been really bad defensively over the last few games, and the up-tempo game environment is a spot that I like to fire up a guy like Miles Bridges. Really good transition scorer, and then a really bad rim defense on the other end should lead to a lot of easy buckets for Bridges. So he looks really solid. And then Mark Williams, huge game last time out. I'm kicking myself for not playing more of him. I said in chat that basically, like, he was projected around 29, 30 minutes around the industry, which was really good. I think it was 6.1K. But basically said, like, if there was a case with Nick Richards getting traded away that he gets like 32, 33 minutes, he's an absolute smash. He's smashing a big way. Just got a ton of offensive rebounds against my Jazz, 57 DK points in that game. Definitely think that's within the range of outcomes here as well. But a little bit more cautious tonight. That was the most minutes he's played this season. That might be the most he's ever played in his career. But he's a guy that's dealt with a lot of injuries. He's probable tonight with the knee management, I believe is the listing. But they probably don't run him up there for 36 tonight. 32, if that's the range for him, I would imagine he's probably in like the low 30s, if anything, like 29 minutes. But yeah, still really, really solid permanent producer, and the matchup could not be better. So I still have interest in Mark Williams tonight. On the Bulls side, much tougher to get deep into them with Giddey probable tonight, Kobe White likely to play, and then Ayo returning from the injury, again healthier. I think the only guys I'm considering are probably Levine and Vucevic. Matchup is pretty good for Levine. Three-point shooters have been doing well against Charlotte as of late, so Levine's got some scoring upside, but it's just really too expensive of a tag to get to Levine and Vuce, or really any of these guys, so probably not getting so much. I guess Lonzo at 4.6K is cheap enough to consider, and then Jalen Smith, 3.3K. I don't think I'd play him over Daniel Tice, but he's still in play.
Nice. I know you're good friends with Billy Donovan. What's his take on Lonzo Ball going up against his brother? Is he going to get extra minutes tonight against the Hornets?
No, I don't think so. They came out a couple weeks ago and said that he's going to be limited to around, I think they said like 24 minutes. But like they said, it could fluctuate from game to game. I don't think that he's getting past like 26.
Nice. All right, next game on the slate. We got the Thunder fresh off their beatdown last night against the Cavaliers, taking on Dallas. Still no Luka. Obviously, looks like Kyrie is going to play tonight if I'm not mistaken. But talk to me a little bit about this game, Thunder at the Mavericks. I do think that Lively is out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, that's correct.
Yep.
Yeah, actually, me and Willie Green are friends, Brad. So I do have his number.
Yeah.
Not just playing, but yeah, this is a good game. Obviously, with no Luka, and I think Kyrie is questionable in this one. Probably good to go. Definitely a big game for both these teams. With obviously OKC being the best team in the West, and then Mavs are right there. Yeah, but I mean, defensively, I think that the Mavericks are probably just outmatched here. OKC is just too good defensively, especially with their pick and roll defense. So it's gonna be really hard for Dallas to get points up here. We saw what they did to Cleveland last night. I think I would not be surprised to see OKC run away with this game. It is a home game for Dallas, which is good for them. But yeah, I think that just OKC is too good. They have so many elite on-ball defenders. The rim defense might struggle a little bit with Hartenstein and Chet out. Didn't really see it last night. It was the first time we saw Jalen Williams in the starting lineup, so they might get a little bit worse around the basket. But normally I like to attack the OKC with 3-point shooters because they try to take away the easy rim looks, so that could lead to a little bit more of some free looks for the off-ball guys. On OKC though, I think SGA and Jalen Williams are really, really strong options here. Saw a slight price decrease. I think the matchup is pretty solid for SGA. He's been killing Dallas this season, went for 58.5 and then 66 DK points. I believe he's averaging 37.5 points per game in those two matchups. And now with SGA or with Lively out of the lineup, I think that's pretty big because they'll run a lot more drop coverage in that pick and roll. With Gafford there, Lively's a lot better of a matchup in terms of defending the pick and roll on OKC. So that could lead to a lot of easy baskets in the mid-range for SGA. He's going to get to the free throw line a ton, really good at drawing fouls. I think he's one of the best spends on the entire slate. Really like SGA tonight. And Jalen Williams stepped up in a pretty big way last night, went for 44.5 DK points in 30 minutes. All these guys kind of got cut down in the fourth quarter as they were up by like 30 at the end of the third. But with Chet and Hartenstein off the court, J-Dub is a 1.34 point per minute producer. Sees a slight uptick in his rebounding rates. PJ, pretty solid defender to make things a little bit more difficult for him. But there's a chance that the Thunder run out more small ball tonight and try to play Gafford off the court, which means that Jalen Williams would be the starting center or the small ball five. So I think there's a little bit more rebounding upside than we've seen from Jalen Williams as of late. Probably going to be max 2 of all these secondary guys from Wiggins down to Isaiah Joe. Dort and Case and Wallace are playing the most minutes there, so those are the guys I would probably lean to. But I think that Wiggins and Joe probably have the better upside case. Wiggins will play in a blowout, so if the game does blow out, you might get paid off in a big way, kind of similar to like an Amir Coffey type of play. But yeah, these guys aren't great plays by any means. I think they're all kind of just okay. I would probably just lean into Casey Wallace and Dort and hope that the game stays close and we get like 32 from those guys. On the Mavericks side, Gafford going to get the start again at center, but I think the range of outcomes for him is pretty wide here with the Thunder capable of playing more small ball lamps, which could lead to more minutes for Maxi Kleber and less for Daniel Gafford. So I don't really want to take a huge stand on Gafford. I think if ownership comes down throughout the night, I would lean into playing him more just because we saw the upside that he has. Put up 50 against the Pelicans, which is a really good matchup. This is not a good matchup, but OKC still does struggle with their rebounding, and definitely taking away Hartenstein could lead to a lot of offensive rebounds and putbacks for Gafford. So I think that wherever the ownership is projected at towards lock is probably the side that I would lean on. If he's like 20%, I'd be under that. If he's 10%, I'd be over that. And then PJ Washington, probably the only other guy that I would be considering on Dallas tonight. He's just killed OKC in his career with Dallas. Put up 60 DK points against them in the lone matchup he played with a 27-17-2 stat line. And then dating back to the playoffs last year, he's done really well against them. Just kind of gets up for this matchup. I remember the showdown game with OKC and Dallas. He had like 55 points, and SHIPIT as a crew were all well over him as our captain. So that was a good night for us. But I think that he's pretty interesting at low ownership.
Yeah, if you had to choose between the similarly close 700 difference, would you choose Daniel Gafford or Brolo?
I would probably choose. I guess Brook Lopez, just the price. I don't know. That's a coin toss. I think Gafford's definitely got a much higher ceiling, but the range is a lot wider for him. Whereas I think that Brook Lopez is probably going to play like 28 to 30 minutes tonight. So, I'll probably say Brook Lopez.
If I told you a player was $7,000 and I guaranteed you a triple double, would you put him in your lineup?
Yeah, but who are we talking about? Josh Giddey?
That's this kid Kobe guaranteeing a $7,000 triple double. So hey, if he guarantees you that, maybe you do it. That's all 7 games. Appreciate all 300 of you tuning in. It's Friday. Let's give them a. I got 2 things for you, Rio. I want you to give them a sub $8,500, the best play, sub $8,500. Then I want you to give them the person that's going to hit the most 3-pointers in tonight's contest in these 7 games.
All right, sub 80. You said sub 80.
80. Let's go 85. 8,500 is a good number, good round number.
I like somebody on the Pelican side. I think we're going to get a big score from one of those 4 guys. I think Zion is just on the fringe. I can't say him because he's 8,600, but I think DeJounte.
That's how math works. It's over 85.
That is last time I checked. I would say DeJounte at 8.2K. I like him. It's not going to be extremely low on tonight because I think that people understand the matchup is really good. But yeah, he's playing really, really well as of late. And we have a small sample. I didn't even mention it tonight for this slate, but him and Zion have done really, really well alongside of each other. That game against Chicago, I was counting my money because DeJounte had like 16 after the first quarter, and then just kind of lost some run or just kind of deferred a lot as Zion was kind of taking over and Murphy was taking over in the last 6-ish minutes of the game. But yeah, I like DeJounte tonight. I think that he's going to put up a pretty big score.
DeJounte, best player under 85.99, and who's going to hit the most 3-pointers tonight?
The easy choice is LaMelo just because he's taken so many, but I don't know. I think that somebody like it could be MPJ. The matchup's good for him, but probably not. I don't know. I'll say Trey. No, I'll say CJ McCollum. I'm staying in that game.
I was gonna say Trey Murphy if you didn't say it, but I think Trey Murphy gets the job done tonight. Well, we shall see. Trey Murphy, you got CJ McCollum, you got every single Pelican tonight. So you're playing 4 Pelicans. You're playing Josh Hart if what's his face sits, but that's doing it for us. Appreciate all 300 of you tuning in. Rio, have a great time at those fights with our guy Title. Tune in tomorrow. We got an NFL show to break down the DK slate. And if you are a member, if you aren't a member over here at the Nation, head on over there now. Enter promo code SHIP50. That'll get you $50 off your first month, and it'll give you all access, including our Shiptimizer. We certainly appreciate everyone tuning in. We've been absolutely smashing over here. NHL, PGA, NFL. Let me get the right screen up there. NBA, my guy Rio, 100K a couple weeks ago. Appreciate everybody tuning in. For my guy Rio, I'm Ham. I'll see you Monday. Have a great weekend. Let's ship it.